Joining us now from Washington, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin. And Mr. Secretary, thanks for joining us so much. It's great to see you. Can you fill in, give us some color on just the statement that the trade war has been put on hold?
Well, great. Thank you. It's good to be here with you. I think we made very meaningful progress over the last few days. I think, this was our third session of kind of intense discussions and negotiations, and we came away with a very comprehensive framework agreement that needs to be implemented, but has lots of different aspects. One aspect of it, which has been the president's focus on cutting the trade deficit, and that's by increasing exports significantly. But there's many other aspects. We talked about technology transfers. We talked about market reforms. We talked about them lowering tariffs, opening up markets to U.S. companies. So I think we've made very meaningful progress, and now it's up to both of us to make sure that we can implement it. This has been a trade dispute all along. It never was a trade war. It's a trade dispute on significant issues. Both parties have agreed to suspend the tariffs. Our 150, they're 50. You saw in sorghum, they dropped the case on Friday as a sign of good faith. For our farmers, this is going to be fabulous right away. Secretary Ross is going over there. They've committed to 35 or 40% increases in farm products immediately. In energy, I think this is a massive opportunity for the U.S. to become a major supplier of energy to China.
This could have wide-ranging effects on what happens with employment in this country. The Supreme Court has ruled on ideological lines, 5-4, 5 conservatives against 4 liberals, that companies are now going to be allowed to enforce arbitration agreements in terms of employment agreements, meaning employees are now, or could be now, required to legally sign arbitration agreements and forego their rights towards class action lawsuits down the line. This is a big deal, especially for a lot of employees out there who are already under these agreements. An estimated 25 million Americans already have agreements in place with their employers that they have to go to arbitration rather than a lawsuit in case something happens with a dispute.
That is the president in Langley, CIA headquarters, as the vice president swears in Gina Haspel, who will be the first female ever to lead the CIA.
This is one of those massive fissures that have now opened up in residential areas, more than 20 of them. Even at a safe distance away, we can feel its heat and its power. Fountains of lava like this have now destroyed more than 40 homes. It's the reason why 2,000 people are evacuated. Many of these lava rivers are now pouring into the ocean miles away. That's creating concerns over air quality. There's also been another explosion at the crater, sending a plume of ash into the air. Certainly a very dynamic and volatile situation here on the Big Island.
Big changes are coming to the New York Stock Exchange. Our friend, our buddy, Tom Farley. For the first time in its 226-year history, the NYSE will have a female leader. Stacey Cunningham is the NYSE COO, and she will become the Stock Exchange's 67th president effective this Friday, and she will replace the NYSE's current president, Thomas Farley.
That is Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg once again before regulators, this time over in Europe in Brussels to face the European Parliament there. What could be a more contentious Q&A session that he faced here? We'll just have to wait and see.
I firmly believe that we are at the crossroads and in a critical situation, because your business practices touched upon 2 basic values of our societies. First of all, the personal data, which became perhaps the most important asset in modern media society. And secondly, on the right of self-government of sovereign nations. This is what it is about, and we are looking for your answers.
I think that President Xi is a world-class poker player. And I'd probably maybe doing the same thing that he would do. But I will say this, there was a somewhat different attitude after that meeting, and I'm a little surprised. Now, maybe nothing happened. I'm not blaming anybody, but I'm just saying maybe nothing happened and maybe it did. But there was a different attitude by the North Korean folks when, after that meeting.
Here comes the launch.
2, 1, and liftoff of Grace Follow-On, continuing the legacy of the Grace mission of tracking the movement of water across our planet.
vehicles pitching downrange.
Morgan, why aren't they choosing to try to land this one and reuse it?
Nominal. GC copies, we'll go. GC copies, we'll go.
You know, I don't know the answer to that. I will find out for you. But
Just curious,
again, this is a booster that has been previously flown into space. I think the other thing to keep in mind, and we saw this with the last launch that they completed about a week and a half ago, they are shifting to a newer, more powerful version of this workhorse rocket, the Falcon 9, called Block 5. And actually, we saw production of that newer version in the building behind me. But I have a feeling it has to do with that transition.
A federal judge saying that President Trump cannot block Twitter users from viewing his feed, saying that President Trump blocking users from viewing what he tweets on Twitter is unconstitutional and would violate the First Amendment. This comes after a federal judge had encouraged a settlement suggesting that Trump mute rather than block some of his followers on Twitter in order to resolve a lawsuit.
The NFL today announcing its policy on the National Anthem. Eric Chemi joins us now. And Eric, they just want this to go away, but it seems like they're trying to split the baby here.
It's a tricky one. So this just got announced less than a couple hours ago. And the rule will now be you have to stand if you're out on the field. But if you don't want to do that, you can stay in the locker room. So basically what they're saying is we don't want to see anybody kneeling, sitting, doing anything that's disrespectful. Either come out and be respectful or don't come out at all.
It's going to be a very, very busy summer, and that's not surprising given the fact of what we've seen in terms of the economy, demand, people who want to travel. Here's what Airlines for America is expecting in terms of people flying in the U.S. between June 1st and August 31st. A record 246.1 million passengers are expected. That's an increase of 3.7% compared to last year. And as you take a look at what those people are paying, really, compared to a few years ago, they're not doing too bad. The average as you go into Memorial Day weekend is $336 round-trip domestic fare. But look at these fares overall. Compared to a few years ago, they still remain relatively low. The problem for airlines is what we're seeing with jet fuel costs. It's up almost 50% in the last year. It continues to move higher. We had a chance earlier today to talk with Oscar Munoz, the CEO of United Airlines. He said, look, so far we haven't changed our earnings outlook. We still believe that this is manageable. The entire industry, as far as airfares, we've seen a little bit of an increase in airfares, but there's so much competition out there that you're not seeing huge spikes in airfares overall.
Breaking news from the White House, a letter that the president has written to Kim Jong-un saying that the meeting with North Korea and Singapore is off. He writes, this letter served to represent that the Singapore summit for the good of both parties, but to the detriment of the world, will not take place. You talk about your nuclear capabilities, but ours are so massive and powerful that I pray to God they will never have to be used. I felt a wonderful dialogue was building up between you and me, and ultimately, it is only that dialogue that matters. Someday I look very much forward to meeting you. In the meantime, I want to thank you for the release of the hostages. That was a beautiful gesture and was very much appreciated.
Also, guys, says that this is again President Trump. I was very much looking forward to being there with you at the planned meeting on June 12th in Singapore. Sadly, based on the tremendous anger and open hostility displayed in your most recent statement, I feel it's inappropriate at this time to have this long-planned meeting.
I'm Julie Borston with a news alert on Harvey Weinstein. WNBC has learned that Harvey Weinstein is expected to turn himself in tomorrow to face charges related to alleged sexual misconduct. Those charges following a probe by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office and the NYPD, which are expected to come tomorrow in New York. Weinstein has denied wrongdoing.
The Department of Justice has opened a criminal investigation into possible price manipulation of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Crypto not moving too much on this, so let's figure out what's going on. Joining us is John Carlin. He's partner and chair of the Global Risk and Crisis Management Group at Morrison & Foerster. John, welcome to you. And how serious a probe do you think this is?
Well, I think this is another sign that both the Justice Department and the regulators are looking to treat the digital world the way they've long treated other markets. And in some ways, it may be long-term better for trading once people have more security in the platforms that they're using to trade.
The prices at the pump, we were just I mean, there's always energy implications in all these stories. They're jumping ahead of the driving season. Joining us now, Matt Smith, Director of Commodity Research at Clipper Data. And once again, snuck up on us, people drive more Memorial Day. And we're always like, well, prices are likely to... Every year, it comes every year, doesn't it? Memorial Day, or is it just me, Matt? I mean, it's no surprise. No, does that really cause prices at the pump to go up a little? It's like pulse pricing or something.
Well, it's a couple of things, really. We do see prices tend to peak, all else being equal, ahead of driving season, because what you see is refinery maintenance in the spring, and then as we come out of that, we see prices peak as those refiners then produce more product, which then gets consumed as demand peaks in the summertime. But what you also have is the influence of the crude price, which makes up sort of 60% of the gasoline price. And as Brent crude hits $80, which is that key sort of element of the price that influences gasoline, we're seeing us hitting $3 a gallon, or we're about to as we hit the starting line of summer driving season here.
We're expecting to see Harvey Weinstein within an hour or two here at the courthouse. Right now, he's inside the police precinct being fingerprinted and photographed, and then he'll come to court for his initial appearance. NBC News has learned from 3 sources close to the investigation that the complaint against Weinstein involves allegations from 2 different women. And according to what we've learned from these sources, we expect Harvey Weinstein to pay $1 million cash bail to agree to wear a monitoring device, an ankle bracelet of some kind, and surrender his passport after that initial court appearance.
North Korea responding overnight to President Trump's decision to call off next month's summit with Kim Jong-un. Michelle Caruso-Cabrera is here, and she has the latest.
Yeah, they came crawling back last night when you see their statement. If you were at work all day yesterday, here's the background. President Trump yesterday, middle of the morning, put out a letter saying that the summit for June was off. He was upset by some of the really cantankerous statements that had come out of North Korea. But then overnight, new statement. The historic summit is now high on the agenda between the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and the U.S., and the preparations for it are being pushed forward at the final stage amid the remarkably great concern of the world. We would like to make it known to the U.S. side once again that we have the intent to sit with the U.S. side to solve problems regardless of ways at any
use
time.
The word crawling back. Do you need to?
This is the please do not break up with me letter.
I know. Must you?
I mean, please don't break up with me, or is it a signal to the world that we're not the ones who are calling this off? It's the
if
U.S.
he
and blame
sees,
them.
what if he sees that and it translates that they came crawling back? You just ruined the possibility that they're going to come back.
Oh yeah, me. Oh yeah, I'm the reason why.
That I just spoke to Sarah Huckabee Sanders a minute or two ago, and what she told me was that the White House is not willing to confirm right now that there is, in fact, a deal on ZTE, as has been reported in a couple of other outlets. Sanders just saying when we have an announcement on that, we'll give it to you. We're continuing to work through the details. So apparently the White House not willing to announce anything official. Other outlets have reported that there is a tentative deal that's still being worked on behind the scenes between the United States and China on that. And as you say, the president raising the prospect this morning of the idea that that summit with the North Koreans could still be on. Here's what he said just a couple of hours ago here at the White House.
We'll see what happens. It could even be the 12th. We're talking to them now. They very much want to do it. We'd like to do it. We're going to see what happens.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.